If you're interested in what I look like in real life and want to learn more about me, then follow my Instagram page at Joe the Insomniac. Hey everyone, thank you for all the kind wishes on my last video. I'm still not 100% well, but slowly getting better. Thank you for all the suggestions to work with too. I'm getting on it as we speak. If you have any stories you've personally experienced and wrote out and would like me to narrate, then make sure you send it to my email. I'll have it up on screen now. I hope you'll enjoy these forest stories I've got for you now. Let's begin. This happened to me and my friend Sam 3 winters ago. We like to explore nature and walking around outside, and our friends had recently introduced us to this beautiful place in Wisconsin that we have visited 3 or 4 times with them. Every time we gone with them, it had been a pleasant trip. We walked around, got some beautiful views of Lake Michigan, sat in crooks of trees, and spoke about books and gaming and other things. We'd been starting a new game of Hunter, and we're talking about it. Now I should mention we're both female and 5'2" each. The first time she and I are alone, it's around dusk. We go to take some pictures that we could Photoshop for the game. The park is massive. There are lots of bridges, footpaths, and winding roads. We're walking over a bridge that sat against one of the roads, with dense woods on either side. And we're crossing and a car drives by. Someone rolls down the window and yells out, "Hey!" We're both startled and jump, but dismiss them. We continue across the bridge. Less than a minute later, the car comes back driving in the other direction. And this time, the driver's window rolls down and the driver calls out, "Hey, come here." And we pick up the pace. The car drives away, and right as we're about to hit the edge of the bridge, the car comes at us again from the original direction. We then book it up to the trees up the hill, and we hear the car stop and the 2 men yelling at us. We continue running and hid in the dark for 15 minutes or so until they leave. We run back to our car and left. You'd think we'd avoid the park after that, but once we had gotten out of there, we had a good laugh about being scared. We went back to the park with our friends a few times and nothing scary happened. So she and I decided to return. Just the 2 of us, again. Sam and I often spent our afternoons and early mornings exploring the outside, hiking, and just sitting outside the parks talking. We head back around dusk again with the camera to take more pictures. Now, obviously looking back, we both feel foolish for having headed back alone and around the same time to the same place. But like I said, we had gone a few more times with other people and nothing happened. So we go back and are about to walk over the same bridge when a car rolls by and you know who starts yelling at us. Now, we don't wait for them to drive around. We duck into the woods, starting walking towards the pier. We figured we'd abandon the other photo spot, only exploring the pier and take some lake shots. Not really what we're looking for, but we figure if we make it in time for the sunset, We could take some nice pictures over the lake for fun. The way the pier is set up is that there's a long road that leads from where the pier is to the top of a hill to a parking lot. The pier is at the end, closer to the parking lot. If you walk down from the pier, you eventually find a bridge leading into a development with a tennis course. So we begin walking down the road to the lake when the same car from before drives down into the parking lot by the pier. They didn't say anything because they drove past, but we decided to slow down and decided whether or not we wanted to continue down by the pier. The car also turns into the lot and came back up the road. The car reached where we are and stops, so we immediately turned, beginning to walk down the hill. All of the windows roll down. We now see that there's 4 guys and 1 girl. They yell hello, and Sam and I turn to wave. One of them says, "Hey, wait for us." Now mind you, we're 2 small females, but 2 people bundled up in winter clothing. You can barely see any of us. We try and ignore them and make it to base, but they yell, "We're coming back for you," as they begin driving up the hill. Sam and I decided not to take any chances now and start running down the hill. We hear shouting and hollering and see them disappear over the top. We start running towards a bridge, and once you've gotten over the bridge to the left, there was a concrete deck with a drop off and a ramp about 5 feet tall, so that if you got off the bridge and jumped down the right way, you're at the bottom of the ramp and couldn't see from the other side down if you duck, and that's what we do. We hear the car speeding back down the hill, and all 4 doors open and close as they all start screaming and laughing to come back, and they just want to play. Most of them take off to the pier, 2 stay behind, and we can make out bits and pieces of what they're saying. Where did they go? Don't worry, we'll find them. Sam and I are huddled over freaking out, and once it has been silent near the bridge for a while, we decide to peek out to see if the other 2 have also left, for then we see we can sneak up to the hill. But as we peek over, there's a guy at the other end of the bridge and he sees us. "Over here," he screams to his buddies and starts running across the bridge to us. We take off towards the development, running along the side of the tennis court while being chased by 3 of them. Only one of them is very close, about 30 feet. The rest of them are catching up very fast. We took a quick turn to 2 houses in the subdivision, and we luckily never saw them from then. We got back to our car by walking through the forest preserve, doing so incredibly slowly. We're terrified out of our minds. We left that night and called our friends we normally went to the preserve with. From then on, we never went back there. Followed by a mime in the forest near my house by Justin Miko. This happened to me and mainly my sister back in 2008. We're from the Netherlands, in a little village, I guess you can say, called Windsor, which is part of the city Nijmegen. There is a circular path in the wooded section of our neighbourhood. So kind of an outline here. Our backyard faced a pond. You had to walk along the pond around 2 or 3 minutes before you entered the woods. It's right away near the path, which would go in a large circle within the woods. Usually people take their dogs out there, or we're just jogging, typical everyday stuff. It's absolutely beautiful though. Me and my family always take our dogs out there. The circle took about half an hour to walk, so it was good for exercise. Alright, so you guys have a vision. I'll start my story. I was around 10 at the time. My sister was 14. She decided to take our dogs and asked me to come along. Taking that I didn't have much to do at the time, I said sure. So we're walking the normal path. We had a small dog and a big one. I was taking the big dog with me. He was a typical alpha dog, always wanting to be up front. Our smaller dog, whose name was Envy, was typically very calm and likes taking her time. She was sniffing on spots for a good length of time. Jip was getting anxious, wanting to keep on walking, so he was pulling me, being 10 at the time, having a lot of force. So I told my sister I'd be a bit further up while she left Envy there sniffing stuff. She's fine with that. Now, we live in a super safe area. It's just like your typical western village. No troublemakers around. It's just a super clean cut area. So we never assumed anything would go wrong. It just never occurred to us. Whilst I had turned the corner of the four-pointed forest path, I looked back and saw Envy was still profusely sniffing, so I walked a bit further, out of sight of my sister. Not even a minute later, she came frantically around the corner, hurrying Envy along with her, telling me keep going. I see the fear on her face as I was told. The way home she was dead silent, not saying a thing. I was of course very scared, not knowing how to react, so I was just keeping up pace. Jip also helps with that. But once we make it home, I said to her what has happened. She said she sees a man dressed up as a mime staring at her from behind a tree. She tried to act like she didn't notice, but her facial expression probably given it away. As she began walking, Mime started following her. Not on the path though, systematically behind each tree. She swore every time she looks back, he's behind the next tree. Apparently when she turns a corner, she can't see him anymore, and starts running. I really didn't know what to think of it. I felt bad I had gone further with Jip, but my 10-year-old mind didn't really assume anything. My sister hasn't said anything about it since that day, but she knew for certain she was looking at a man dressed as a mime. It didn't seem to affect her much afterwards, luckily, but it must have been quite a scare knowing that I wasn't in sight, and knowing some freak dressed up as a mime was following her. Luckily nothing else happened, and we moved ever since.
I work for a reality show. Okay, it was more like a web series or YouTube channel. We didn't make much money off it. Our viewership was small but loyal. I don't know, I guess it was fun. We travelled a lot. We got to drink on set. I even met my boyfriend on the show. And with only 3 of us, we were a very productive tight group. Think bar rescue without the histrionics, and ghost adventures without the BS. We were Hilda's Haunted Happy Hour. We operated on a small but cool concept. We go to haunted bars, and with the owner's permission, sit around at 3 AM, the witching hour, and drink like fish while trying to capture paranormal stuff. Of course, the owner tells us of all the legends and stories about the place, but yeah, we're mostly there to get drunk. After all, the owners can't complain. They get free exposure and we get free drinks. The crew consisted of me, our host Hilda, and my boyfriend Jason. We were all three horror enthusiasts. Maybe alcoholics as well, but yeah, I enjoyed getting drunk and scared. Who wouldn't? And Jason, what more can I say? For us, it was all good love at first sight. Two late 20s hipsters in search of our big break into filming. Crew gigs, directing, whatever. We wanted to live and breathe cinema, and hopefully, Hilda was our first step. At the very least, I loved Jason in all his grungy glory. His cute smile and sense of humour melted me from the start, as did his horrific wardrobe. Ripped jeans, bland hoodies, a beanie that never seemed to leave his long hair. Yeah, he was strange, and destined for directing, just like me. I didn't dress any better, and yes, I wore a beanie over my cropped red hair. We both smoked and drank. We were two neurotic night owls. For months now, we've been talking about writing our own autobiographical dramedy. How Jason met Alice. We'd even start setting aside money from our haunted happy hour pay for this micro-budget production. I was going to write and co-direct it with Jason. The only problem was Hilda. She was simultaneously our biggest champion and detriment. Our shoots were long, and they never ended. Hilda didn't believe in taking breaks or hiatus. Then again, she was in her early 40s, so maybe thought her shot at stardom was shrinking while ours was just getting started. She was a theoretically trained actress after all, Hilda Harker. I believe she was from New York before migrating to Atlanta. Her IMDb was okay, lots of soaps and commercials, nothing special. I will say her look was unique though, like a Hispanic Marlene Dietrich. Her boobs were about as fake as her name, but hey, they were eye-grabbing, just like her screen presence. To be honest, I was never too sure how Hilda had stopped this low to be doing YouTube stuff. I mean, in the grand scheme of talented actors and actresses, which Hilda was for sure, doing these low-budget shows was maybe one step above prostitution and stripping. And Hilda could be quite charming. I mean, she could charm anyone, both genders for that matter. And yes, for the record, she did try and seduce me and Jason on separate occasions. We politely declined. Like I said, Hilda and Dietrich-esque. For whatever reason, whether it was racism or sexism, Hilda just never quite made it. And for me and Jason, well, that turned out to be our blessing. After all, without Hilda's failures, she would never have posted that desperate Craigslist ad. And then me and him would have never been brought along for this wild ride. So even with the measly pay we got from Hilda and the show's revenue, we trooped on. I'm talking multiple shows a week, all across the southeast. On this tight budget, travel arrangements also sucked. We had to ride around in Hilda's tiny Toyota. Yeah, not even a goddamn bus or van. I wouldn't say our filmmaking quality was the best either, but hey, we kept it fun. Together, we all had the warm camaraderie of a jovial podcast. I imagine you're probably wondering if we ever experienced any true paranormal activity whilst getting plastered. I mean we did, but it was never anything flashy really. Unlike all the other Go shows, we never faked anything. Regardless of how much Hilda or some other bar owners wanted to, my goal was to keep us as authentic as possible. After all, my goal wasn't to attract idiots. There were plenty of shows that catered to the bored of housewives and drunk college kids who loved the silly dramatics and fake spirits. We want to cater to the sincere paranormal enthusiasts, the real ones. That was my goal for the Haunted Happy Hour from the start, and as a result, our fanbase only grew and became more loyal with each episode. All that being said, we did actually capture some honest-to-goodness paranormal footage. You know, like doors slamming, creepy voices and groans, glasses falling off tables, orbs, the cool subtle stuff that still give you chills. Our first ever Halloween episode had been a rousing success, so naturally, Hilda wasn't looking to slow down, not when we had momentum. Over the next few weeks, as we explored other bars without incident, she demanded we do a Thanksgiving episode. The Wednesday night before Thanksgiving to be exact. I told her there was no way me and Jason were missing Black Friday shopping. The only problem was finding a nice location. Everyone kept shooting me what the F responses to my emails. Thanksgiving was one of those few times I guess I could close or half-arse it. Needless to say, no one wanted us bargaining it on their holidays like that. Just a few days before our planned Turkey Day event, I got a reply from someone who finally accepted our ridiculous proposal. Someone as desperate as us, I figured. The Pirate's House. Yeah, the Pirate's House was the bar's name. A infamous haunted tavern in Savannah, Georgia. All kinds of legends took place there. Murders, affairs, scandals. And not just pirates either, but stories happening throughout the Civil War and the Great Depression as well. In Savannah, the Pirate's House was basically a time capsule of a bar. And somehow, the owner Ruth Flynn had agreed to it. That Wednesday, an excited Hilda drove us to Savannah in her reliable Toyota. We got into town pretty late that night, and after checking into a cheap motel, we made our way towards Ruth's bar. Me with my camcorder, Jason with the boom mic, and Hilda with a huge purse full of ghost haunting devices. Not many people were out and about on the river street. They were all spending the heartwarming holiday with their families, I figured. And here we were, spending it with ghosts and alcohol. The cool November air swept through us like we were at the sea. Keeping my arms folded against my hoodie, I felt like a shivering pirate. The Pirate's House is a small place tucked away on the corner, barely noticeable amidst the sea of other tourist traps and dive bars. If not for history, you'd think this place would have gone under decades, if not centuries ago. Nothing special was on the outside, other than old, mouldy bricks, and a swinging sign bearing the bar's name. A sign complete with bold letters and cartoony pirates. You know, like the kind of friendly characters you'd expect to see in a pirate place. Such a stark design screamed "No tourist welcome." However, I figured maybe the bar's modest appearance was the point. There were no pretensions for these kinds of places back in the 18th century. People came here to drink and brawl, not enjoy the atmosphere like now. Certainly not for overpriced beer and a trivial night. The front door was open just a crack when we got there. Ruth must have been expecting us. Should we just walk in? A nervous Jason asked. Chuckling, Hilda led the way. Yeah. We hadn't even talked to Ruth on the phone. Hell, we weren't even sure if this was what the place looked like. But Hilda didn't care. She never did when it came to getting the show done. The Pirate's House interior was more the same ugly rawness. I guess you could call it period detail. To me, it looked more like period cheapness, like clever owners who use historical accuracy as an excuse to let the place go to crap, rather than update it. God, I can only imagine the mass profits they cleaned up from all the tourists and college kids. The money damn sure didn't go into how the bar looked. Once we entered, the heavy wooden door slammed shut behind us, startling everyone except Hilda. We were now in the sea of blackness, save for a stray candle and lantern. It was going to be hard as hell to find a cold spot when the entire bar felt like a walk-in freezer. At least I knew the beer would be cold. Uneasy, I studied the bar. The building was tiny. A couple of bathrooms were near the bar. I saw a curtain in the very back that I figured led to the kitchen. Tables were scattered about, but space was at premium. The bar counter dominated most of the main room we were in. Its wood pristine and strong like a ship's hull. Handcrafted stools lined up all down the counter, and of course, there were alcohol and goblets galore right behind the bar. I'd never seen so much rum in my life. With each step, the wooden floorboards creaked beneath my feet, agonizing groans like the painful cries of anguished old men in the middle of the night. Considering the ambience of Jolly Roger flags, I could tell this joint took the pirate theme pretty seriously. The tables were positioned on top of treasure chests, for God's sake. In the corner, you could even take a picture with a crow's nest. Surrounding us, sharp swords hung on the walls. The Pirate's House presented us with a grimmer, more realistic attraction. A bar with the grittiness of Blackbeard, without the flamboyance of Jack Sparrow. "Looks good," Hilda said for the camera. "Ahoy there, mateys!" A booming voice echoed towards us. The raspy tone felt forced, too soft and cheerful to be intimidating. Startled, we all turned to see an older lady emerge from behind the curtain. She looked 60 to 65, tall with broad shoulders, but a sweet face. Her big, beaming smile and pearly whites greeted us. Less intimidating than her tone was her ridiculous costume. Even in the dim lighting, it looked silly. The puffy shirt, the red vest, the tall black hat, the sword attached to her belt, and yes, a fake parrot on her shoulder. For a second, I considered walking out. With that wide smile, Captain Ruth looked like an escaped inmate who just had too much fun in the costume shop. Displaying her fake smile, Hilda approached Ruth. "Hello, you must be Ruth." Ruth stuck out her hand. "Ruth Flynn." Even from here where I stood, I could see the calluses and scars on Ruth's craggy hands, either battle-scarred or manning a pirate ship or a bar. Hilda completed the exchange, her grimmed hand in the polar opposite of Ruth's. "Oh yes," Hilda said to Ruth. "It's nice to meet you." Like a showman, Ruth motioned around the bar. "Welcome to the pirate's house, scoundrels," she barked in that awful pirate impersonation. "Nice," Jason quipped. "Is that your usual voice for this?" Ruth chuckled. "I only use it for the introductions," she said in a kind tone, a natural voice I assumed, like a sociable southern belle. She waved at her costume. "I've been doing this for 20 years now. The kids love it." "I bet," Hilda said. Holding the camera, I secured a close-up of Ruth and the parrot. "Does everyone dress like that?" I asked, curious. Ruth nodded. "All my employees do." "Ouch," Jason chuckled. "I don't mind it," Ruth said, gleeful, as she caressed the fake parrot. Her smile never left her lips. "I like to think it's more fun than wearing a uniform." I was almost disappointed she had no gold teeth. "I quite like it," Hilda said, faking a laugh that'd make daytime anchors cringe. "But how long has this bar been running now?" "Well, I'd say about 20 years, Ruth answered. "Wow," Hilda exclaimed. "Yeah, all the previous owners didn't seem to care much about the history here. I mean, the pirate's house has been in Savannah since the Revolutionary War. There's so much culture, and I just wanted to make it so much more authentic. That's why we wear the pirate's outfits. You make it feel like a real treasure island." "Well, you certainly did that," Hilda said to Ruth. I pointed over to the swords. "So you did all this yourself?" Excited, Ruth looked over at all the weapons. I saw reverence in her eyes. "Oh yeah," Ruth answered. She faced me. "I just had to inject the history here." Her southern accent was like a methodical melody. Very pretty yet slow, even melodramatic. She had strength in those AARP lungs. "We need pride here at the pirate's house." She waved her hands towards the swords. I had Bradley help me put them up. "Bradley?" Hilda asked. "Is he here right now?" Giggling, Ruth caressed Hilda's shoulder. No, he's my son. He helps out when he can." She looked at the camera. Of course, he can't really help with the drinks. Like Hilda, she had a screen presence. Only rather than possessing Hilda's glamorous sex bomb appeal, Ruth had aged good looks and southern charm. Like Scarlett O'Hara, who wore her age with pride. But the boy loves pirates. I even gave him a costume to wear. I chuckled. "That's cute." Hilda motioned Ruth towards the bar. "Shall we start the show?" And like that, we carried on with Hilda's happy haunted hour. There we were at the bar, Hilda and Ruth behind the counter, me and Jason on the stalls. Given the candles and lanterns, this was an intimate setting for our show. Jason and I didn't even need to manufacture any atmosphere. No need for our strobe lights or fog machines. The swords or pirate stuff made it creepy enough, much less Ruth's outfit. And all the while, we were riveted by Ruth's every word. She was a natural-born southern storyteller. Her tales of the pirate's house, legendary past, captivated us. Everyone from Blackbeard to Stonewall Jason had had a drink here. Maybe it was crap, but I don't know. But I'll be damned if Ruth's sincerity didn't sell it. Her pirate outfit made it the more surreal too. I felt either like a kid listening to a pirate mascot at an amusement park, or like I was really on a pirate ship. A ship where I'd been captured and forced to listen to the grave tales of the most grizzled pirate on board. A tough female pirate at that. Out of the legends and myths though, the one Ruth harped on about the most was the most terrifying. Not Blackbeard or the Captain Kidd. He was a man I'd never heard of. A tall, brooding scoundrel, as Ruth had said in her chesty voice. But not even her hammy tone could mar the terror of Bruce Joad. He was a pirate who terrorized the Georgia coast, specifically Tybee Island. I had no idea if Ruth was being honest about the descriptions, treyarchy and cannibalism of this man's lore. Maybe Joad's eye patch and peg leg were all part of the sensationalism. I don't know. I sure hoped it was. Instead, all I knew is that Joad and his crew sailed the Georgia coast around the 1780s. He tormented all those they found on stray boats or on the shore in a bloody reign of terror that went on far too long. While the dark-haired Joad killed man and women, he saved his worst for children. See, Joad wasn't one for enlightenment thinking. To him, immortal youth was possible, but only by consuming it. He took "you are what you ate" literally. So he did, yeah, as you can imagine. No, this wasn't walking the plank or a sword fight. This was absolutely brutal, and even in Ruth's southern gentle accent, I was beyond horrified by the account. She didn't spare us any details either. Joad and his men dismembered the children after decapitating them, and they ate them down to the bone, sometimes raw, sometimes cooked. It didn't matter. Babies, infants, pre-teens. The only cut-off point seemed to be around 18. I was glad to hear when Bruce Joad got his comeuppance in Savannah. I was less than confused though when Ruth told us it was in this very bar, during a card game gone awry, a bar fight had erupted, and Bruce Joad got done in. I could only imagine Joad suffering his fate right where I stood at this moment. The fact that Ruth and Bruce Joad still haunt his pirate's house to this day only unsettled me further, and judging by Jason's lack of jokes, it freaked him out too. For once, even Hilda stayed out of the way. She just let Ruth Flynn take over, and by God did she. Of course, during the horror stories, we drank loads of booze. Lots and lots of booze served to us in glorious pirate-era goblets. Ruth made us her most famous concoctions, not just Bloody Marys either, I mean all kinds of bizarre mixes, and a ton of rum. Even I gave the rum a try, and yeah, it was too strong. I felt nauseous just sniffing it. At least Ruth was kind enough to offer me a few Bud Lights. Around 2 AM, we started getting to the bar's modern history. Jason shivered next to me. I wrapped my arm around him, both out of affection to keep us warm. Well, so how do you and Bradley deal with these hauntings? Hilda asked, her hands flying around in a drunken excitement. I mean, with such horrible history, God, I can only imagine how scared you must be running this place. Yeah, Ruth said. Solemn spirits replacing her enthusiasm. She swallowed the rum in her goblet. Bradley passed away 2 years ago. Oh my God, Hilda said. Stunned into silence, me and Jason watched Ruth. The mood of the entire bar shifted from campfire chills to sympathetic sadness. Struggling to restrain her emotions, Ruth confronted us. The smile was gone. Even her pirate outfit had lost goofy luster. The flamboyant costume may as well have been a black funeral garb. Bradley helped me all those years ago, you know. A weak smile crossed her lips. I even made him wear a costume. He hated it at first, but over the time, the boy loved it. Oh, he did. Lost in the nostalgia, Ruth gestured all around her costume. The eye patch, the hat. She let out a brief chuckle. And the red vest like me. He looked so swell in it, he really did. She choked up for a moment. Her quick sip of rum confronted the nerves. I bet he did, the sympathetic Hilda said. Memories overflowing her, Ruth motioned towards her leg. I even gave him a cane, his grandma's old cane. Pure maple wood it was. I told him it was to use as a peg leg, and he did. I could always hear Bradley stumbling around in the kitchen with it. Her warm laugh brought a welcome to the end of the tension. All of us joined in on the laughter. I had him scare the rowdier customers, Ruth went on. You see, everyone knew how haunted the pirate's house was, and everyone knew about Bruce Joad. They was also scared of his evil spirit. So around closing time, when we had some scragglers and drunks all getting rowdy, well, I had Bradley stay in the shadows. Grinning, Hilda raised her glass. Oh, I get it. Yeah, Hilda took a long swig. Bradley would scare the bejesus out those boys and girls, Ruth went on. He'd scare them so bad they'd never come back. Letting out an amused crackle, she pointed towards the curtain. They'd hear that peg leg coming from there, and they'd run like hell. Ruth's accent sounded stronger than ever. The gentle southern tone had become more confident, more boisterous. Then again, maybe it was a rum talking. Her movements were clumsy with drunkenness. Hilda leaned closer towards Ruth. But you've actually seen things here, right? Like real spirits? Ruth gave a confident smirk. That's what we all want to know, Jason added. Oh yes, Ruth said, many spirits. Like Bruce Joad? Hilda inquired. Ruth nodded. She raised a goblet to her lips, among many others. She took a quick sip of the precious booze. I could tell her eyes were alive with passion. The rum had awakened many emotions within her, fiery emotions. So Bruce Joad's ghost does haunt this bar, Hilda said. The thought freaked me out. Scared, I felt my hands were frozen to the camera. Yeah, Ruth answered, every single night. Wow, Hilda responded. She stood up and got ready to go towards the back curtain. Maybe you can give us a tour of the back. With startling quickness, Ruth snatched Hilda's wrists. No, Ruth replied. Her tone lost its warmth. Instead, it sounded harsh, hell-bent even. Uneasy, Hilda tried to pull away from Ruth's tight grasp. But for someone so old, Hilda had strength. What kind of muscle was the costume hiding? Well, it's just part of the show, Hilda stammered. You give us tour... Ruth's grip tightened, making Hilda cringe with pain. I want my son, Ruth demanded. With those cold words, several candle flames flickered out, as if Ruth's harsh accent had quashed them. Now we were in an even darker pirate ship. He comes to see me at night, Ruth continued. He comes here at night. Terrified, all three of us stared at her. Even Hilda was speechless. He died here, Ruth said, anguished. My Bradley died in this bar, and he never left. He comes to see me, he talks to me. Hilda stared at her uneasy. Ruth, I don't understand. Bradley comes back, Ruth yelled. Her eyes had sharp focus, just like her voice. He comes to see me. Jesus, I heard Jason say. Ruth snatched Hilda's shoulder. I know he'll be here with y'all soon. He likes guests, he always does. Me and Hilda exchanged an uneasy eye contact. Hilda was used to being the one pushing for ghosts. Now we're in uncharted territory. I just want y'all to stay here with me, Ruth went on, until Bradley comes here. Silent, Hilda looked right into her desperate eyes. Please, Ruth begged, please stay with me. Before Hilda could say anything, I leaned a little closer. But what about Bruce Jode? I asked, doing my best to keep my voice steady. What if he shows up instead? Ruth turned a focused gaze towards me. Sometimes he does. Letting go of Hilda, she looked at the host. But I don't want to be alone if he does. We gave in to Ruth's demands. We stayed in the bar and drank, but there wasn't much talk. Soon, 2:30 turned to 2:45, and 3 AM got closer and closer. According to Ruth, 3 AM was usually closing time, and it was usually when the pirate's house spirits came alive. During the wait, me and Hilda had fiddled with some of her equipment. The heat thermometer didn't really matter. How do you get chill spots when the bar is freezing? We saw nothing on the infrared camera either. All in all, we had just had Ruth's word the place was haunted, but I was convinced. I drank more beer while everyone downed more rum. Our eyes strayed up to a pirate's clock. Suspense mounted with each passing second. Finally, 3 AM was upon us. We'd hit the witching hour. Hilda finished her rum like a pro. Well, it's time, boys and girls. Confident, Ruth gave us a smug smile. Yes, it is. I felt a breeze whip through the room, even the windows all closed. The breeze felt like it was coming from the ocean. The sheer force sent me shivers, and soon the breeze sent all the candles out like a quick burst. Now our ship had gotten darker. Ah, God, Jason yelled. Just remain calm, Hilda said. Allow it, Jason restored. Ruth's adamant shush silenced them both. Intense, Ruth pointed towards a curtain. Do you hear that? We listened, and instantly, I wish I hadn't. But then again, I'd have heard that chilling noise at some point. Echoing from the back of the room was a slow, steady pounding on the wooden floor, like an incessant rhythm. The hits sounded louder, closer, more ferocious with each hit. And then they were steadier, with a ticking clock, stronger than the thud of a heavy foot, or a wooden foot, stronger than a peg leg. Jesus Christ, Hilda muttered. Listen, Ruth commanded us. Making the floorboard groan upon impact, the thuds got closer and closer to the curtain. Then they stopped. Silence engulfed into the darkness. We were alone at the bar, too scared to say anything, almost too scared to breathe. Jason glared at Ruth. Is this some kind of joke? My Bud Light exploded, not in a spontaneous explosion, but with the force of someone squeezing it in a burst of rage. Shattered glass flew everywhere. Beer flowed all down the counter like flowing blood. Frightened, everyone staggered back. I heard Jason drop the boom mic, and his stool scraped across the floor in a most agonizing screech. Scared, I looked over at Ruth. What the hell was that? It's Bradley, Ruth said in her soft southern accent. She gave us a sly smile. He's coming. I could see how calm Ruth was. She was used to this activity. She even looked happy, like a kid hearing an ice cream truck coming from down the road. Then we heard the thuds once more, consistent bangs of a peg leg on the wooden floor, full some more booming creaks. Me, Hilda and Jason faced the curtain in fear. Thuds were coming from right behind it. Ruth flashed a beamed grin. I know that's my boy. A harsh wind brushed against the curtain. Even in the cold bar, I felt beads of sweat slide down my head. I could feel myself tremble. I felt nothing but fear. It's Bradley, Ruth proclaimed. Hilda looked at Ruth. How'd you know? A guttural groan echoed towards us, a groan of anger, of wrath. To our horror, we turned to see a tall man emerge through the curtains. In lumbering steps, he made his way towards the bar. All the while, the steady thud smashed into the floorboards. I heard Jason yell in fright. Amidst the darkness, the figure approached us. He was propped up by a wooden leg, his black hair masked by a tall black hat. Bradley, Ruth cried. I looked at Ruth and saw her calm, comforted expression. Her warm eyes looked right at the mysterious man. She wasn't scared in the slightest. She was relieved. Bradley, baby, Ruth went on. The man stood about 10 feet away. He leaned on his wooden leg. In the darkness, one of his arms looked long and slender-like. The man stood about 10 feet away. He leaned on his wooden leg. In the darkness, one of his arms looked long and slender, like a tree branch sticking out. But I knew better. The glistening was silver in the light and made it clear he was holding a long sword. A long, sharp, antique sword. One fitting for the most fearsome pirates in the seven seas. Excited, Ruth stepped towards the armed man. "Come here! Come here to Mama, Bradley!" "Ruth!" Hilda yelled. Turning, Ruth smiled at us. "It's okay, it's just Bradley." I watched the man raise his sword. I couldn't let the old sweet lady run into him. The equivalent of letting an innocent puppy run straight into oncoming traffic. Panicking, I ran towards her. "Ruth!" "No!" I heard Jason scream. "Alice!" I heard Jason and Hilda's scared footsteps crush the creaking floorboards as they followed me all the way to Ruth. Ruth caressed the man's face. "Hey there, Bradley." "This isn't Bradley," I yelled at Ruth. Going off adrenaline, I pushed her away from the tall man. "Get away from him! That's Bruce Joad!" Up closer, I could make out the man's features. The eye patch, the old bloodstains on the sword, the red vest. His costume was cartoony like Ruth's. All that was missing was a fake-ass parrot. The man's face was pale and blank. He looked young, innocent except for that harsh, glowering eye. The Joad eye. "What are you talking about?" Ruth yelled at me. I faced her. Ruth's face was irate. All her southern manners decimated by southern anger. She looked like she was so angry. "Leave my son alone," she held at me. Jason grabbed Ruth's arm. "That's not a little boy, lady." Outraged, Ruth yanked her arm back. "What are you talking about? That's my Bradley." Her eyes gazed down to the man's peg leg. Ruth crackled in maniacal glee. "Don't you think I know my own son?" Hilda stopped right before me. "Come on, let's go." As she followed my gaze, Hilda's terrified voice died in an instant. "That's goddamn Bruce Joad," I heard Jason yell at Ruth. But he was wrong, and Ruth was right. Bruce Joad had a real peg leg. He wouldn't be leaning on a wooden cane. Not the cane Ruth gave her son many years ago. Horror latched itself onto me. Even wearing what I now realised a skin-tight costume, Bradley wasn't a little boy any longer. He was a living, breathing grown man, and he'd been in this bar the whole goddamn time. "Hey lady, come on!" The oblivious Jason continued with Ruth. Turning, I made eye contact with Ruth. She gave me a cold, knowing smile. "Get them, son," she commanded Bradley. "Get those scoundrels now." "Oh no," Jason cried. Jason looked right into my fearful eyes. Then he saw the cane in the man's hand. Bradley's cane. Kill 'em all," Ruth hollered with sadistic satisfaction. With the quickness of youth, Bradley raised the sword, his movement so swift and fast. Terrified, I faced Ruth's son. He was pulsating with life, no bloodstains on him, no wounds. He was alive, a 20-something monster. "Alice!" Hilda cried. Bradley lowered the blade straight towards my vulnerable skull. I felt a strong shove push me into Hilda's worried arms. The crushing sound of the blade striking flesh disturbed me, like the sound of a crushed skull, or the unsettling final gasp of someone's dying breath. Me and Hila looked at the sword sticking out the top of Jason's head. The same Jason who'd been so scared the whole night. Yet this same man was the same boyfriend who had just saved me by sacrificing himself. The sword stuck out of Jason's head like a grotesque antenna. Thankfully, he was too weak with fleeting life to turn around. I didn't want to look into his fading eyes. I couldn't. "Finish him, boy," Ruth yelled at Bradley. She reached over and slapped him. "Punish the vermin. Do it for us. For the pirate's house." Petrified in fear, I stared at Jason as he stood upright. Bradley's exposed eye marked me like his sword's blade. Tears slid down my face. "No," I said. One harsh yank and Bradley pulled the sword straight out of Jason. "It's our family business," Ruth reminded Bradley. "Protect it." Jason hit the floor hard. The floorboards let out a vicious creak upon impact, like spilled drinks. "I'm sorry," Hilda told me. "Alice, let's go, please." I felt her tug my arm. I couldn't move. To this day, I still know how I held onto the camera. I felt life fleeing me without so much of a cut or a bruise, without enduring the wrath of Bradley's sword. "Get them," Ruth screamed. At his mother's command, Bradley raised the long sword and marched towards us. All the while, Bradley got closer and closer, his steps more determined and frantic. "God damn, Alice, run!" I heard Hilda yell in my ear. And using all her might, Hilda pushed me towards the pirate's house front door. She pulled hard, like a panicking horse dragging an empty stagecoach. Snapping at my melancholy, I turned and saw Hilda lead us closer to the door. Then I matched her intense speed and panic. "Loot them," I heard Ruth scream. Right as Hilda shoved the door open, I turned and stole a look back. Now Bradley was running, saddled by a cane and child's costume. He was so fast. He wasn't on his peg leg either. He had no reason to play Bruce Joad. He was Bradley Flynn, a madman at his mum's command. I could hear his intense breathing echo through the cold room, and I was damn sure that the glowering eye was focusing on me. Bradley let out a vicious cry. "Not again! Ah!" Just that same guttural groan he unleashed earlier, a growl of a disturbed pirate. Terrified, me and Hilda rushed out into the November night. Even in the sub-50 degree weather, it felt like a summery day compared to the drafty pirate ship we'd just abandoned. The sidewalks were empty. Right now, a dead time for tourists. 3 AM. Thanksgiving morning, just our luck. Bradley's cries erupted through the silent streets. A deafening tap on his cane now smashed onto the concrete rather than wooden floorboards. Trembling with fear, I turned to see him rush after us. "Go!" Hilda screamed at me. "Run!" Clinging onto my hand, she led us past all the closed bars and gift shops. I'd never seen Hila run so fast before. Then again, she stayed in good shape for the camera. Bradley's yells and taps began to fade off into the distance. I glanced back one last time. Bradley remained outside the pirate's house front entrance, like a deranged pirate mascot brought to horrifying life. Apparently, he didn't want to leave his mum's side. The further me and Hilda got from the pirate's house, the more this horrifying reality set in. How long had Ruth been keeping her supposedly dead son back there? Why had she lied to us about him? And why did she make him keep wearing that costume? 10 minutes later, we finally got to the police. They didn't take us serious. But what else did they have to do on Thanksgiving morning? I handed them my camera, and we led them right to the bar. As soon as we got there, I knew something was off. There was 21st century consumerism written all over the place. From the pirates' caricatures, and the swinging sign on the window. You can't sell out in less than 30 minutes, I realised. It's not possible. The doors were locked. The police refused to break it down, so we had to call the owner. She arrived soon enough, half asleep and grumpy. But she wasn't Ruth. Hell, she was half Ruth's age. And the girl wasn't even Southern. A New York transplant, just like Hilda. She said she never responded to our email, and she said she would sure have never let us come in on Thanksgiving. Nonetheless, we convinced the owner to let us inside. And well, things got weirder. Gone was Hilda's ghost haunting equipment, gone were our drinks, and gone was Jason. In fact, no blood was anywhere, no sign of any crimes, and no sign of the violent mother or son duo we had just encountered. Rather than a pirate ship, we were on a spaceship, speakers, flat screens, and even a pirate video game was inside. No candles or lanterns, no sword display, only a few Jolly Rogers. Even the crow's nest was gone. We were back in 2018 again. We may as well have been in a Buffalo Wild Wings, rather than one of the oldest taverns in the southeast. Needless to say, the police found nothing in the back room, or in the kitchen. They just said we were too drunk to know what was going on. Desperate, me and Hilda did all we could to get the police to keep investigating. They said they'd take a look at my footage, and that was it. And to this day, I haven't heard back from them. After the cops left, me and Hilda lingered around with the owner. It turns out she wasn't as bad as I thought. Just not a morning person. She even gave us a couple of drinks on the house. However, we politely declined the rum. And there in the darkness at 6 AM on Thanksgiving morning, the three of us chatted like old friends, without the camera and the sound worries. It was nice to just have a normal conversation in the bar. There was no need to press for the stories or lore, no need to get scared or hope for a ghost to appear, just three girls talking in the pirate's house. There was something romantic about it all, the kind of camaraderie that made Hilda's haunted happy hour fun in the first place. Soon the owner wanted to tell us something secret. She even leaned closer to share it in a voice that sounded softer than Ruth's, a notch above a whisper. There in the darkness, she told us the scariest story we'd heard yet. Not so much a legend, as one of Savannah's many dark secrets. The story of the pirate's house owners back in the 1940s, a single mother and her son, Ruth and Bradley Flynn. They ran the bar themselves, and yes, they both dressed as pirates. As the boy grew older, Ruth still forced him to wear that outfit, the eye patch, the wooden cane, everything. Worst of all, rather than just scare away their scraggler customers, the mother and son got addicted to killing, and their easiest targets came around closing time, around 3 AM. Whoever was left at the pirate's house during the witching hour was never seen again. That much is true. What happened to them? Asked the owner. My nervous hands gripped my long neck. I shivered in the dark room, and it wasn't just from the cold beer either. What happened to the Flynns? They were cool, but the public never knew anything, the owner told us. Why? Tourism, the owner smiled. This was the 1940s, you know. Ghost tours weren't an industry then. And now we're never supposed to tell anyone, an incredulous Hilda asked. The owner took a shot. Well, you can. She slammed the glass down like a gavel. But who's going to believe you? Me and Hilda exchanged nervous looks, helpless looks. The police didn't, the owner went on, her tone sly yet morbid. And do you actually think they're going to give you those tapes back? And the owner had a point. The booze and her candid comfort were just a temporary distraction from the anguished pain I felt within, a pain I felt over Jason. I quit the show the very next day, if you want to call it quitting. Hilda had no interest in continuing either, nobody would. And we never got my camera back. The Thanksgiving special never happened, and to this day our pirate-sized footage has never been released. But I still think about Jason, quite often actually, and every time I do, I bawl like a scared child. He deserved a better fate, and I still refuse to let him die in vain. That's why I'm telling you now who his real killers were, and how they can be found. And how if you ever want a drink in Savannah, Georgia, whether you're a beer drinker like me, or someone who likes the harder stuff, avoid the pirate's house at all costs, especially around 3 AM, and especially if you're greeted by a friendly old southern woman wearing a pirate's costume.
Man in the Forest by Hayden M. For reference, I'm a female in my late 20s, and about a week ago, I had an unsettling encounter. The city I lived in is surrounded by reserved land, set aside by the city planners. This is a forest full of pine trees. Now I usually walk my dog up in the area closest to me, which is about a 10-minute walk from the middle of town. It's one of my favourite places to go, but I'm nervous about going in the area alone. The city is usually very safe. I've never had any concerns out by myself, even in the dark. And I've been in the forest when it's dark many times without incident. The track where I access the forest is atop of a dead-end street, through a park with a playground, up a long series of steps, rather secluded. I have 2 dogs, an older one and a 1-year-old one. They're a working breed, so very high energy, although the older one is now arthritic and doesn't need much exercise, but the younger one needs a huge amount of off-leash exercise daily, which is why I was out on this particular evening. The older dog is very shy and has a nervous disposition. Now during the time of this, it was after work in winter, so the sun is down. It was also bad weather, nearly a storm, and raining. Although the trees shelter you from most of the rain. Now I get into the forest and let my dogs off of the leash. We meet a couple of other people also with high energy dogs along the way. Now I'm walking along where one of my tracks leads, and I can see a man up ahead sitting in a seat. I could see he's dressed dark, with blue track pants and a leather jacket over a hooded jersey, head down staring at the ground. His hood was up, and I couldn't see his face. He was just sitting there in the rain. And I immediately get bad vibes from him. I tried to shake it off as just someone out for a walk, but decided to stay alert just in case. A few minutes after, the older dog looked back at something behind me, then bolted, clearly scared, running in the direction of the playground. I've never seen her run away like this before, and the younger dog runs after her. I yelled for her to come back, but she's gone. The younger one comes back when I call, but keeps running up ahead, like he can't decide who to go with. That's when I look behind me. I see the same man a little further behind me. I start to get really nervous about the man, but more about my dog this ran. The track I'm on makes a large loop before heading back to the playground area, with the track below led straight behind him, so I quickly climbed down back onto the lower track, hurrying after my dog. Now I'm really scared at this point. The track is muddy and slippery. It's now dark and very slow going. Now when I get close to these steps, I see both dogs sitting there, and they come running up very excited to see me. Relieved. I turn around and the man is right behind me. He had to run or have followed me down the bank to get there as quickly as he did. I realize that I really need to get back to a populated area as I head down the steps as fast as my back will let me. When I get to the bottom of the steps, I put the dog back on the leash when the younger dog starts growling at me for the first time. The man is now halfway down the steps when he sees me, suddenly stops and proceeds to tie a shoelace. I keep looking at him with my dog growling. He shoots me a long, angry look. Then he turns around and walks back up the steps into the darkness of the forest. Now, nothing bad actually happened, but I hate to think of what could have if my dogs were not with me. The weirdest thing that ever happened to me when I was in a forest was when I used to go hunting. I used to love doing this. I lived about 5 miles away from a very large forest that had very good game there. Now one trip changed that for me forever. I remember the night well. Everything was going good. I was about to pack up for the day when I hear what sounds like a woman screaming for help. I'm armed, so not too worried to go and find out what's wrong. Now I'm constantly trying to track the source of the sound. It sounds as though it's moving, and I realise it's in a very dense part of the forest that I never would normally go to. I shine my flashlight correctly for 1 second to the exact source, and it terrified me. I can see it's a man running with a tape recorder, and God knows how many else were there with him. I fired a warning shot into the air and bolted it back, and never went back to that area again.